Stephen King crowned Clive Barker the future of horror after seeing Hellraiser. I find this statement amusing because the valuable pieces of King's work to me are the ones which other, in my opinion, more skilled artists like Brian De Palma or Stanley Kubrick got their hands on and then greatly improved. Both of these films are vastly superior to their book counterparts to me because of the story changes made. Other more faithful adaptations by less skilled artists range from mediocre to pretty terrible. King tends to favor concept for character, which is much of the same problem in the original Hellraiser for me. I find these stories to scrap the initially interesting character setups in the name of crafting a world with long lingering implications and franchise possibilities. The Book of Carrie chooses to end by setting up another girl with telekinesis rather than focusing on the religious implications and relationship resolutions between Carrie and her mother, like in De Palma's great film. The original Hellraiser chooses directions that disappointed me because the story held a lot of potential, but much like the relationship between King and these artists, David Bruckner has arrived on scene to dramatically improve upon the franchise with his new film titled the same, Hellraiser. It's now streaming on Hulu. In this video, I'll break down the script of Hellraiser 1987 and then Hellraiser 2022 to express exactly why I think this new film is so much better. After that, I'll give a third section expressing what I would have done to improve even this new film if I had my hands on the script, because there are still some elements that I wish could be different. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Hellraiser 1987. The setup for Hellraiser really grabbed me. This couple, Larry and Julia, moved into the house of his late brother Frank. Julia feels haunted by the house because she had a secret affair with Frank. Larry cuts his hand while moving furniture into the house and his blood seeps into the floorboards, summoning Frank back to life. Julia hides Frank upstairs, and he demands she bring him in and sacrifice them so he can devour their blood, bringing him closer to attaining his human form again. The reason this setup grabbed me is because Julia has a history with struggling to be faithful to her husband, and these demonic presences enter her life to directly prey on her weakness in this area. Her husband tries to love her but is poor at communicating that and caring for her in the ways he needs. These were pretty good introductions for a movie about how demonic forces prey on what you struggle with. They take your weaknesses and turn them against you to fulfill their biddings. This is the foundation for a really interesting character study, and I was on board for it. The problem that arises for me is that just after all these interesting ideas were set up, they quit evolving. I expected Frank to be the catalyst by which to explore the inner workings of Julia, but the story evolves into a tale of Frank trying to escape the demons who hunt him. Before the story ever even progresses with Julia, he kills her. I thought this was going to be a good story like Men, where abstract horrors are metaphors for the protagonist's inner journey, but the film is not that intelligent. We start following Larry's daughter, Kirsty, who has zero character. She's just a catalyst for the audience to experience horrors through. Hellraiser drops character in order to follow concept. The ironic thing about this decision is that the movie struggles to even present a truly compelling concept. It's all based around a puzzle box that will summon these Cenobites when you solve it, but we are never shown what actually solves the box. By the end of the movie, Kirsty's just twisting it and summoning whatever power she wants from it. It's not grounded in any progression or logic set up before. The Cenobites are barely even in the movie until the very end, so even if you argue the film to be more about the effects and the scares as a horror concept movie, the scares and creatures are not paced well throughout the film. They have no presence, so it doesn't make sense to hinge the entire experience on them. The Cenobites, which are effectively demons, are trying to make humans understand that pleasure can be found through pain, in an attempt to pull people further from the presence of God and then turn them into demons themselves. There's some religious imagery to back this up, but ultimately it feels inadequate because it never is funneled through the characters like I thought it was going to be at the beginning. The end note, where Frank cries out, "Jesus wept," just before being torn apart would make sense and be a powerful end note if the themes were explored and executed on properly throughout the film, but they are not. The logic of the film is completely destroyed in the latter half. It breaks its own rules and characters start making wholly irrational choices that conflict their previous motivations. This makes everything unsatisfying and unmemorable. To find some credit for the movie, in the beginning there is some skillful writing as the history between Frank and Julia is revealed just as Larry cuts his hand. This is a dramatic double climax. Both moments build up together and then climax at the same time, properly communicating the importance of the moment. Nothing following that scene contains the same amount of craftsmanship. It's really just a downward trajectory from there. The writing is really weak to me overall. The best element of the movie is the practical gore effects. Let's move on to talk about the new one. Chapter 2. Hellraiser 2022. This isn't a continuation of the series, this is more like a reinvention. It takes a lot of ideas from the original, but is establishing the same themes and concepts with new characters and better execution. This film justifies its existence as a remake because it actively improves upon it and forges its own identity. This is a far more cohesive film than the original. Each element of the film ties together and there is a common through line that carries the movie forward. While the character improvements are the most important thing to me, this film also has a better grasp on the conceptual elements than even the original did. The function of the box is laid out very clearly, and we actually see how the box operates. It never becomes a magic wand and does whatever the story needs. It always follows a very clear rule set. The Cenobites are spread evenly throughout the film too, making it a far more appealing genre piece. Let's talk about the characters. There's only a single protagonist in this film, which immediately solves some of the problems. There's a compelling setup here again. Our protagonist, Riley, has a history with drug addiction and she's been clean for 6 months. When she runs into the box, it tempts her and tries to get her to break into drugs again as a bridge to being attacked and influenced by the Cenobites. The involvement of the Cenobites is integral to her personal life, which is how you marry internal and external conflict. Then, as those themes boil down, a philosophical conflict is formed that speaks to the perversion of occult practices. Riley sacrifices everything she must in order to come clean and officially rid herself of both Cenobites and drugs. Hellraiser 2022 tackles the same ideas as the original but does so with far more focus, a stronger tone, better direction and visuals, and good characters. While this journey for the character was the key element that makes this a better movie overall, it's also where some of my biggest complaints emerge. The writing in this film ties everything into itself and no time is really wasted, but I do think it could have been trimmed up and compressed in order to offer some additional elements in the story that would have elevated this franchise to what I've always thought it could be. Let's talk about that now. Chapter 3, What I Would Change. This is a story about the temptations of devils trying to pull you from God and become one with their perverted ways. They want humans to understand the pleasure found through pain and evil. The greatest joy they can offer someone is to tear their body up and form their pieces into a new Cenobite. For it being a story about this, why can't we get story threads where Riley is being directly tempted by their ways? Ultimately, the story is affected by this and she makes a change, but why can't the exploration be deeper and more dramatic? Trevor already serves as a character that introduces these ideas to her. He goes to a therapy group and singles her out because he knows that the devil can easily prey on the weak. But we never see him stalking her. We never see them have a moment where during intimacy he hurts her and convinces her to enjoy it. We never truly see her siding with the Cenobites' ideas at any moment. Twisted scenes like this where the characters dip into perversion would work and build our character's journey. We've seen examples of these types of scenes executed well in Raw or Titan. It can work. What I'm saying is that in the resolution of her coming clean at the end is a great decision and is supported by the themes of the film, but it wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. It wasn't as satisfying because I never saw Riley go down into the depths of temptation. Without seeing the other side, redemption wouldn't be as important. All we ever saw was her high on a few pills. I think that if you want to spread this great message of ridding evil from your life, it would be better to express where that evil will take you in more memorable ways. While overall this film is good, it's not something that is supported by unforgettable character sequences like Midsommar is, which is something I talked about in my last video. This is about 70% of the way to where I want the story to be, to where the concept and the characters are inseparable to the philosophical ideas at play. I just want them to push it 30% further and put the protagonist through the ropes. I want to see her at her highest points and her lowest points. Most importantly, I want to be genuinely scared that she will slip into demonhood at some point in the film. That will make the religious imagery connect more. That will make her redemption connect more. And that will make a story that I would praise as one of the best of the year. This is the closest the franchise has ever gotten. Good movie. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, leave it a like and consider subscribing for more screenwriting content. If you thought the video could have been better though, leave it a thumbs down and then tell me what could have been improved upon in the comments below so I can do better next time. Thanks guys, I'll see you later.